Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm back with another video. After reviewing Samsung QN90F 43-inch TV a few days ago, here we have it again as promised, side by side against the QN90D 43-inch TV of the last year. So on our left, we have the QN90D and on our right side, we have the QN90F. So given that we have both of them at the same time showing the same image, hopefully it's going to help you decide which one is better and which one is more worth having. Each of them has their dedicated review as well, so check them out. Like for the case of the QN90D, I also compared it last year against the QN90C, also 43-inch, and I also compared it against LG C4 OLED at 42-inch. And the QN90F has its own review that we did a few days ago. The first thing that we will all notice and agree on is the screen finish. As you can see on our left side, the QN90D has a glossy finish, while the QN90F has now a matte finish that is being used on Samsung more higher end TVs such as the QD OLED TVs. However, I would like to say that the QN90D has also an anti-reflection coating. So you can see that while it's showing the light, however, you cannot see me or you cannot see anything around my room. It has a dark glossy finish, which is going to minimize the reflections. So unless you don't direct a light to it, you're not going to see so much of distractions. So that's the first difference that we can all see. And depending on your taste, some people may prefer a glossy screen while others would prefer a matte one. Now, if you ask me personally which one I prefer, I would go with the QN90D. Why? Because it just feels better, in my opinion. It's going to provide higher contrast levels as well, as we'll see later on, deeper blacks also. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer in terms of screen coating. Now, the second difference I spotted is with the remote. While the two of them have the same type of remote, however, you can see on the QN90F, we now have a new AI button that is going to help us like in searching, more like a screen searching. When you have a show running on, you can press that button. It's going to show you the stars that are playing it, as well as suggestions and give you a brief about this show. So it's more like an AI function. Other difference that I spotted that at the bottom, you can see it used to be Disney Plus, while here I got YouTube. So that's the only difference. We still have our Samsung TV Plus, Prime Video, Netflix. On the back, you can see it's exactly the same. Both of them have a solar panel that is going to recharge the remote on light, and also a Type-C port if you prefer to charge it via cable. You can see that manufacturing date of the QN90D was 23 December 2023, while for the QN90F, it's 24 December 2024. So roughly a year after. And another difference is that the QN90F ships with the slim one as well as the smart older generation remote, while the QN90D only ships with that slim remote. Both of them have the same kind of subpixel structure array. So you can see it's PGR, blue, green, red. Now, before doing a tour around the settings, I would like to show you my current software version installed on both of them. So the QN90D has 1301, while the QN90F has 1036. So that's the versions that each of them has currently. It's the newest available to ensure we have the latest fixes and all. So now you can see in terms of Tizen OS fluidity, both of them deliver actually pretty well. However, I noticed that the QN90D at times it will lag a little bit. Like you can see the difference as I scroll. The QN90D will lag while it's loading pictures, while the QN90F doesn't lag, but it's showing you that it's loading them. And while you are scrolling, it's going to do it. This way, you're not going to lose like that smooth feeling of it. And here we are in game. So we have the same kind of cloud gaming services like Xbox, GeForce Now, Luna. Like you can see at times the QN90D lags a little bit, while the QN90F almost never lag. Now, the next thing we are going to see is in Daily Plus, which is like a productivity plus entertainment section. And both of them have the same kind of workspace features and support smart syncs and support Philips Hue sync. You can sync your Philips Hue light strip on TV directly without having to use any kind of another hardware. If you have the light strip subscription, as well as hue bridge. So you don't need like a sync box or anything. You can directly do it on TV. Last year, we did a dedicated video for this on the QN90D. And from my experience, it syncs pretty well and looks amazing. Also, like you can see on the health tab, both of them have the same health features and also connect watch. You have a Galaxy watch, you can send notification while working out. A new addition I found, if you would like to show an ambient image or ambient art, it used to be called ambient on the QN90D, while for the QN90F, it's now called art. And the difference is pretty vast. You can see it has lots of collaborations, lots of images that you can show on your TV, but both of them are able to generate wallpapers using AI. So you can see if I go to generative wallpaper, both of them is going to provide the same capability. So you can select like different keywords and it's going to generate a wallpaper for you and you can generate 10 of them daily. So nice feature. You can see I'll do it at the same time. So to see who's going to be faster. The QN90F was ever so slightly faster, but you can see both of them are amazingly fast. And you can see it's very beautiful on both of them. In my opinion, the best UI upgrade they have done is changing the options navigation system. Because before it used to be this horizontal bar, while now it's two column style. So it's more like a phone. You can navigate through different pages, such as game mode, multi-view, brightness, the sound output, picture mode, etc. Now, if you click on all settings to change different settings such as picture, sound, and more. Also here, they change the way to navigate. So it just feels a little bit better. This way you can see your changes on the right. There's already an empty space that you can see the difference. While on the QN90D, you used to get that big window showing on front of you. For some settings, you cannot see as you change them. Now I have picture mode on game. If we go to expert, we have the same brightness, contrast, sharpness, color, and tint. And here comes the first difference that we'll find on picture settings. The QN90F has Auto HDR Remastering Pro, while the QN90D has Auto HDR Remastering. Both of them are going to remaster SDR to look like an HDR. However, there is going to be a little bit more of a difference as we'll see later on in comparison. I can only say that for now. We have HDR tone mapping. It's the same. You can change it between static or active. We also have contrast enhancer on both of them, as well as local dimming. And both of them has also film mode, color tone to standard, white balance also the same, gamma to BT 0.1886 with an offset of 0, and shadow detail to -5 to add a little bit deeper blacks. I usually prefer it this way, but it's up to you. And also color space settings, I've set both of them on native. So far, I have the same picture settings on both of them. Another difference we'll find here is the color booster. So you can see the QN90D has color booster, while the QN90F has color booster Pro. It's a more of an upgraded version of it. We'll see later on that there has been some rework on it. Now in sound, both of them has Q Symphony. So if you have a Samsung sound bar, it's going to work well. Both of them also have Dolby Atmos. Now if we go to game mode, you can see we also have the same kind of settings. So I have game mode turned on as I'm in PC. Both of them have virtual aim point, surround sound, dynamic plug equalizer, which I've set to 1. And if we go to Game Picture Expert, you can see that they both have HDR 10 plus gaming set on advanced with game HDR turned off because I'm on SDR by the way. Windows doesn't let you duplicate two displays in HDR mode. So since it doesn't let me duplicate two HDR monitors at the same time, I'll need to run them on SDR. Still in game mode, you can see that the QN90F has a way to turn off auto run game bar. So, when you turn on game mode, you always see that game bar showing up whenever you turn on the TV or switch to an input with game mode on. You will see that game bar is auto running. By disabling it here, you can disable that to show up. Going out from game mode and to external device manager, you can see that both of them have Ionate Plus, HDMI 6. So you can use your TV remote to control external devices and listen to TV sounds through a soundbar receiver connected via HDMI ARC or eARC, as well as input signal plus and HDMI plug level. You can switch it between normal, low, or auto. Sometimes you will see that the QN90F has changed the placement of some settings to a different part. So a different way of representing the same, but in different menus. Also, we can see that the QN90D used to call AI mode, intelligent mode, and now it's called AI mode. It has the same adaptive picture, eye comfort, AI customization, Active Voice Amplifier Pro, and Adaptive Sound Pro, as well as Adaptive Volume. Now, in case you are going to run a lower resolution content on them, both of them has great 4K upscaling. The QN90D has NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor that is going to upscale lower resolution content to 4K, while the QN90F has a newer version processor NQ4 AI Gen 3. And here I'm playing a 720p, the same movie and the same picture. You can see that the QN90D is doing very great job at upscaling as well as the QN90F. But something that I noticed that the QN90D will do it by over sharpening the image. It's ever so slightly sharper, while the QN90F has a little bit of softer upscaling. Both of them have the same sharpness level. I didn't change it. It's a default sharpness 10, and they have the same settings used on both of them. It's not on PC. It's just I connected an external USB drive, but you can see the difference for yourself. Next, you can see in this image, you can see the QN90D add sharper edges. So you can see her face has a sharper edges, while the QN90F has softer edges. At times, you will feel the QN90D is ruining the image, given that it's adding more sharpness, while the QN90F has more control over sharpness. It's a little bit more balanced. Now you can see the difference if we turn on Auto HDR Remastering. You can see on the QN90F we have the Pro version and the QN90D has the normal version. In my opinion, it looks more better on the QN90F. It has better highlights you can see on her face. It has better contrast levels overall and better color tone. It just feels more real. Let me know what you guys think. In this third one, you can see the over sharpening effect on the QN90D. You can see buildings are over sharpened, and thanks to that, it just feels a little bit more processed and unreal. While the QN90F just feels a little bit more real. Like you can see the windows here, you can see buildings from far. It's doing upscaling, but yet not over sharpening it. And you can see in this example again, here it feels pretty nice on both of them. Generally speaking, I can't help but think that it's over sharpened on the QN90D compared to the QN90F. But overall, I would say that both of them deliver pretty nice upscaling. So if you plan to run a lower resolution content of them, like a classical movie or something, it's going to give some upscaling treatment. Note that upscaling doesn't work on PC mode and game mode. So you would need to connect like a flash drive or an external device or maybe live TV. Now I would like to show you the difference in Auto HDR Remastering and the Auto HDR Remastering Pro. Like here I'm running on PC. You can see that colors look a little bit better down below. It's adding a little bit more of a HDR treatment, like not really a full native HDR, but more like enhanced SDR to look like HDR. You can see in that area, it's a little bit darker and more defined. And you can see down below, colors are a little bit more saturated and waved. In some areas, it feels like night and day. It has better shadows around the corners in the QN90F. Let me know what you guys think, which one looks better to you. Next, I would like to show you difference in contrast enhancer. So when I set it to off, it's just going to disable contrast enhancing. while setting it on high is going to give us a better contrast. And you can see that both of them has a great contrast. However, the darker side of the moon on the QN90F feels a little bit more lit, while the QN90D on the bright side of the moon, it just has stronger contrast. Now again, we have this example. You can see the difference in contrast enhancer when I have it on off versus on high. Both of them deliver pretty nice contrast levels and enhancement. But you can see that the QN90D in this area is showing a little bit more details, like around that pink area, compared to the QN90F. It's a little bit washed up. The wood area looks better on the QN90F, by the way, compared to that one on the QN90D. Like in some details are showing on the QN90F and some aren't in QN90D, and sometimes it's vice versa. Next, I would like to show you local dimming. When I have it on low, you can see that it's quite dim on both of them when I have it on low. Instead, when you set it on high, the bright side of the moon is very bright on the QN90D. On the QN90F, it just feels a little bit less bright, but it shows you more details. You can see it's showing you more details on the darker side of the moon. Pretty interesting. Next, I would like to show you the difference in color booster feature. So the QN90F has a color booster pro, while the QN90D has color booster only. The QN90F is going to use some AI to adjust color intensity for each scene. So it's going to optimize performance on its color levels, while the QN90D, what I noticed that it usually applies more of a stepping color saturation. Like it's going to apply over saturation on the whole image while not calculating which areas need it more, which areas doesn't need it. And at times I notice that when I turn on color booster on the QN90D, it sometimes will burn colors, while on the QN90F just feels a little bit more realistic. Like you can see the difference. The QN90F is going to apply saturation, not on the whole image. It's going to give some color boosting to areas where they need the boost, while the QA90D usually applies an oversaturation across the whole image, so it doesn't really calculate so much. So sometimes I notice that it will oversaturate as if you increase the slider of the color all the way to max. It just feels like that. While on the QN90F, even if you have this one on high, it's not really going to affect directly with that slider, you know? Like you see in this area, when I put color booster on high, it's oversaturating the tree trunks. They feel more like reddish. While on the QN90F, even when I put it on high, it still has its original color. You can see this another example. It's beautiful on both of them. However, the QN90D is adding oversaturation. Like you see plants, they have a very stronger pinkish color, while the QN90F has add some color saturation to them, but they still look real. Now that we are done with showing different features, I would like to jump in and start to do some testing. Starting with the uniformity test. So in this one, the QA90D easily wins because the unit that I got for the QA90F has actually a very bad defect. I can see on the right side, there is like a circle and a grid. So that's some backlight, while on the QA90D, I didn't see anything of that. Like it has a little bit of dirty screen, not very 100% uniform, but it's so much better than the QA90F, at least my unit. Now, in terms of response time, you can see the difference. It's actually bad on both of them. I don't like neither of them in terms of response time. You can see that there is so much of ghosting going on. But the way that I can see that the QA90D a little bit worse. Now that I put them side by side, I can notice that, but it's not really that significant. When I reviewed the QN90F by itself, it was so bad, as I said, just feels a little bit better than the QN90D. Let me know what you guys think about it as well. Can you spot the difference? Given that I have both of them duplicating at the same time, I can only max them at 120 Hertz. So I cannot max the QA90F to its 165 Hertz and the QA90D to its 144 Hertz. So I cannot duplicate them at different Hertz at the same time on Windows. I need to match the same refresh rate. It's ghosting on both of them. There is after image, but to me, it feels like it's a little bit less on the QN90F. Maybe a little bit better, but not really that significant, maybe ever so slightly. You can see in this example what I'm trying to say. You can see text has smearing on both of them, like there is after image of it as it's scrolling. However, you can see that the QN90D has a little bit more of ghosting. You see more after images of the same text, while the QN90F, it's a little bit more retained in this area. Like I noticed it here the most, but you see on 60 FPS smooth, it's so bad. You cannot almost read anything on the text. While on the QN90D, you can still read it. I don't know what's going on. There isn't any kind of smooth transition, so it feels like adding the same letter next to other, and they are almost forming new alphabet. While on 120 FPS, it looks better on the QN90F in my opinion. You see that letters are leaving behind more trail and more after image, while the QN90F has a little bit of stricter response. In this example, I noticed it the most. You can see that the QN90D, where lines are in motion, they are leaving two trails, one on the right side and another one on the left side, while on the QN90F, they are leaving one on the right side. So that tells me there is a little bit of enhancement to the response time on the QN90F. It's just amazing. I didn't expect something like this. I feel that the QN90F is so bad, but when I see the QN90D compared to it, it just feels worse. So I start to appreciate the improvement on the QN90F. Like the way I see it, it's definitely like this. There's better response time actually on the QN90F. Finally, in this full scale UFO test, you see that the QN90D is leaving trail behind a little bit more, while the QN90F has a little bit of less of response issues. Like the way I see it, I can definitely tell that. So that's pretty amazing. Actually, I didn't expect that. At the end, I'm not saying that the QN90F is amazing in terms of response time. The way that I see it, it's just better than the QN90D. Not really that significant to say that it's on par with OLED or QD OLED or IPS or TN panels in terms of response time, but it's more acceptable than QN90D. In a real example, as I scroll down in the news, you can see the difference. Like the way I see it, both of them have, but still less on the QN90F. When you scroll at a slower normal pace, like as you are going to read some documents or the news, both of them deliver bad response time and at times cannot read anything as you scroll. In terms of viewing angles, Samsung said that the new coating on the QN90F is going to improve viewing angles. And from what I can see, it's actually bad on both of them. So you cannot expect to see amazing picture from different angles. You see, as I move, image seem very desaturated and have lower highlight, lower contrast. While if you look from front, it looks amazing. And given that both of them have a VA panel, you only need to see them from front to have the best kind of picture. But if you change to a different angle, you start to lose so much of details and contrast and colors. But on the bright side, both of them deliver pretty nice local dimming. So you see that they don't suffer from blooming effect. In fact, it looks nicer on the QN90D, given that it has a glossy finish. So black levels feels a little bit deeper. On the matte finish, it's going to minimize a little bit of contrast, but it looks amazing on both of them and they don't suffer from blooming at least. At times it looks nicer on the QN90F and at times it looks nicer on the QN90D. Like, let me know what you guys think, which one looks better to you. But I can see more details on the QN90F. Like you see the darker side of the moon is showing more details than the QN90D. Only when you put them side by side, you can tell that. But overall, they are both amazing in local dimming and they have great contrast. You can rest assured you are not going to see so much of blooming. Now I leave you with some image tests so you can see the difference in terms of image quality, local dimming, contrast level, auto HDR remastering, color boosting, everything we talked about. All settings are maxed out on both TVs so you can see the maximum performance they can provide. So let me know which one you think looks better and we'll be back. Now, in terms of PC gaming, they both look amazing. I don't see so much of ghosting going on when I play. Sometimes I will do, like when I move the camera so slow, or in some, depending on the game type. But in my opinion, both of them deliver pretty nice gaming. Thanks to the glossy coating that the QN90D has, contrast seems a little bit better compared to the QN90F. Like you see, on the QN90F, it looks a little bit washed up because of that matte finish. But overall, I would say that both of them deliver pretty nice gaming performance. Now running them on 120 Hertz means that I can duplicate two monitors at different refresh rates. So I had to normalize refresh rate for two of them to make it fair and square. And I'm running like here, Color Booster Pro all the way to high, local dimming to high, contrast enhancer, and auto HDR remastering turned on. In case of the QN90F, it's Pro, and Color Booster is Pro as well. So you can see the difference for yourself, and you will be the judge ultimately to know which one looks better. Like I used the QN90D for a year as a daily driver display, and I really enjoyed it, but just the response time issue was horrible for me. I'm looking for a better solution to this. Currently, I'm using a QD OLED G81SF, also from Samsung, a gaming monitor at 32-inch QD OLED. It's amazing for response time. It has no issues at all from that sort, and colors looks amazing. However, if you would like to have a Neo QLED TV, those are one of the best options that you can have. Like the QN90F at times looks more immersive and more like vivid, more colorful. Like you see, city looks a little bit more lit. You see that darker areas of buildings looks brighter on the QN90F. Like you see that bridge, you see it's a little bit brighter on the QN90F. Maybe because I have Auto HDR Remastering Pro turned on, while the QN90D has only Auto HDR Remastering. So it's not the Pro version. Maybe the Pro version is helping in areas to brighten them and give them a better enhanced SDR looking. But overall, I will say that both of them have a very nice colors, very vivid, very alive. Image looks amazing on both of them. I can see more details on the QN90F. I can't help but think that, like, you see around the city, it just feels more detailed. And like you see that building behind, you can see it clearly more on the QN90F compared to the QN90D. Also that bridge, like it's amazing on both of them, but it's just brighter on the QN90F in darker areas. It's just amazing. When you compare them side by side, you start to see the difference. Like it's amazing how you cannot distinguish that if you don't compare them next to each other. Like only when you do this, you can see the difference. Comparing TVs is so fun. But in my opinion, it looks amazing on both of them. And the QN90D, given that it has a glossy screen finish, it has deeper flags, while the QN90F is going to show more details. Like you see that under bridge area is, I can't help but see it a little bit more clearly on the QN90F. So guys, that was it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. In my opinion, both TVs are great, apart from the response time issue and the NOR viewing angles. So those two issues are so bad. And the fact that my QN90F got a defect, I'm hopeful that Samsung is going to improve their quality control and overall improve response time as well. Like in the next year, I'm hopeful to see a Neo QLED TV at 43-inch with a better response time, or at least a QD OLED at 42-43-inch size. That would be more ideal. Next, I actually ordered Samsung S90F 42-inch. It's a WOLED by LG Display. I was hopeful that this year they would release a QD OLED TV 42-inch. Unfortunately, this year they didn't make a QD OLED at that size. 42 and 48 inches for OLED are actually a WOLED display provided by LG. So hopefully it's going to be good. I'm going to also review it and hopefully maybe also compare it to the QN90F. Even it's an OLED, it should provide better response time, but I'm also concerned about brightness. So we're going to see it when it comes and review it. I really hope that you found this video useful and you liked it. Please let me know if you have any question. I will be happy to respond to you, and let me know which one you prefer and what you think about those TVs. Do you think they are actually good? Do you think that response time has been improved in the QN90F? Also, what do you think about image quality and different features? Let me know if you think it's worth having QN90F or QN90D. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel to be up to date with everything that I'm going to upload, because it's going to be pretty busy. I'm going to review S90F 42-inch as well as a review surprise. So I hope that you stay tuned. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.